Now economists are saying, this AI thing is going to be a disaster. I don't want to say told you because we're super worried about how big a disaster it's going to be. I'm going to give you some predictions on how awful this is going to be for our economy. But it's good to see that economists are waking up and going, oh, right. It's not going to be rainbows and unicorns. It's going to be an enormous amount of unemployment, let alone other parts of it. Elliot has a story.
Yeah, so over the past few years, economists have largely been on the fence about the potential impact of AI on the livelihoods of American workers, with many highlighting how historically concerns about technology have tended to be a little overblown. But a new statement signed by almost 200 economists and tech leaders, including 16 Nobel laureates, seems to signal a shift away from skepticism and toward the need for immediate action. In fact, the title of the statement is just "We Must Act Now." But what it says is only almost as notable as who actually signed off on it. So first, the statement: 1, AI may become radically more powerful over the next 10 years. 2, this could drive an unprecedented transformation of our economy, larger than the Industrial Revolution, but unfolding over a vastly shorter time frame. It could bring risks, including large-scale job displacement, as well as opportunities such as major gains in living standards. 3, economists, policymakers, and technology leaders must act now to understand the economics of transformative AI and to build the incentives, guardrails, and institutions needed to steer AI in a direction that complements humans and benefits society. So while the statement does not offer actual specific policy guidelines, it does seem to signal an overall shift in the general attitude of economists around AI, at least according to Eric Brynjolfsson, a Stanford economist who also helped put together this effort. There's been a notable change in the profession. I still see a big gap there, a big mismatch, and I'm kind of worried that we're not going to be ready for the tsunami that is coming. That sounds alarming, and to make matters a little worse, the call may be coming from inside the data center, and that's because among the signatories are people from Google as well as OpenAI and Anthropic. There's Sarah Frier, OpenAI's finance chief. There is Jeff Dean from Google's DeepMind, and Jack Clark, a co-founder of Anthropic. So altogether, there are 16 signatures from people associated with OpenAI or Anthropic who are joining with economists and other tech leaders in urging immediate action. And according to Brynjolfsson, so a lot of the difficulty facing economists here boils down to contradictory measurements that make it very difficult to draw a conclusion. So on one hand, the unemployment rate has been mostly holding steady. However, white collar payrolls have been contracting now for years, something one economist said is virtually unheard of outside a recession. Labor market researchers now are finding that the disparity is very likely due to the fact that AI's impact is appearing as underemployment and workforce exits rather than just unemployment. Ultimately, economists seem a little less worried about the technology itself and a lot more worried about the time and how quickly it might transform the economy and how unprepared we seem to be. So, Cenk, thoughts on AI and the coming apocalypse?
Yeah, so I'm an alarmist on this, and unfortunately, I'm worried that I'm going to be right. For like 90% of my predictions, I say I hope I'm wrong. So, for example, when I said I think the Iraq War is going to be a disaster, I hope I'm wrong. So yes, we've been around forever, and we were on air when the Iraq War was getting started, before it got started. So in this case, I'm going to do another time travel piece here, because in the 1990s, back when I was a Republican and Bill Clinton was in office, I said, look, I might be against Bill Clinton, but I got news for you guys. It's never going to get better than this. Like, unemployment was at a record low, inflation was at a record low, the economy was booming, everything was going right. By the way, later I became a Democrat partly because of that, right? I was like, well, it was never going to get better than this if we have a Democratic president. So it was, of course, as you all know, or a lot of you know, it's more complicated than that, because then Bill Clinton deregulated everything and led to disaster, right? But so at that time, I said it's never going to get better than this, not because I was worried about the future, but because I was just noting in my lifetime and in what I've studied in American history, I don't know that we've ever had an economy that good, right? So now I'm saying the same thing, but for a completely different reason. I'm not sure that it's ever going to get better than today, not because today is so great, but because I'm nearly positive tomorrow is going to be worse, and the day after that is going to be worse, and on we go until best case scenario, we elect someone in 28 and they begin the turnaround in 2029. But that means we've got a brutal stretch of years coming up here where things are only going to get worse. So now we're completely back in the Iran war. There's no chance of peace left. So that's going to be a nightmare in a way that like no one understands right now. They're acting like it's no big deal. I'll come back to that. And now you add on top of this the AI collapse that we've been telling you about now for a couple of years. So it's just a matter of logic, guys. So there's two factors here as to why this is so obvious. Number one, this is like the 200th time in a row where the people working in the AI companies, OpenAI and Anthropic, are going, watch out. And the rest of the economy and the politicians, the media are like, nah, don't worry about it. They say that they're gonna destroy the world, but nah, I'm sure the guys working on it are wrong. Okay, but by the way, when the guys making money off of it say, oh no, it'll be great and we'll all have personal robots and they'll cook salmon for you. They're like, yeah, that we believe. Yes, that's awesome, right? I ignore the naysayers, right? No, I wouldn't ignore the naysayers, especially when they're coming from, when the call is coming from inside the house, right? But the second part, Elliot, is just obvious logic. So what does AI do? Even for the guys who love AI, they say it makes things more efficient. So, and they are constantly bragging. You go on CNBC any given day, okay, whether it's the website or the channel, and they're like, great news! Another company has fired 10% of their employees. Now they think it's great news because their stock price goes up, right? Because they're like, oh, you became more efficient. The other night I was scrolling through Shop TYT, as I'm sure you were, when I saw our awesome Banned in the UK shirt. And I thought, I need that. I definitely need it. I clicked add to cart. I'm ready to dig out my wallet, but it's on the other side of the room. But right there in the checkout, glowing like a beacon, is that glorious purple Shop Pay button. One tap, boom, order placed. That's the magic of Shopify, the platform behind millions of businesses and 10% of US e-commerce, including our own Shop TYT. That purple Shop Pay button is the best converting checkout on the planet. It means fewer abandoned carts and more actual sales. If you run a business, Shopify makes it super simple to build a beautiful site with hundreds of templates and a blast email and social campaigns wherever your customers are scrolling. It's like having a full marketing team behind you. So do what we did, use Shopify. See fewer carts go abandoned and more sales go with Shopify and their Shop Pay button. Sign up for your $1 per month trial today at shopify.com/TYT. That's shopify.com/TYT. You'll be able to maximize profit better. Another company could cut 25% of their workforce. This is great news. Is it? Is it? Because everyone, as I've been telling you for now about 2 years, is in a race to cut 25% of their staff. What do you think that happens when all the companies do that? So we're gonna hit 10% unemployment super easy and super quick. And I don't know where it stops. I'd be shocked if we didn't get to 12% unemployment. I think the outer edge might be 25% unemployment. But guys, these numbers, you have to understand, are catastrophic. Once we get to 10 to 12%, we're not in a recession, we're in a depression. So who the hell's gonna buy all the crap you're making with AI? So no, Elliot, I'm worried this is gonna be worse than anything we've ever seen in our lifetimes.
I worry you might be right. I feel like there's always there's a reaction and then there's an opposite reaction. And when it comes to the AI stuff, you have on one side all of the tech gurus being like, this is gonna be the most incredible thing in the world. It's gonna transform society unlike anything we've ever seen before. And then there's a reaction where a lot of folks who I'm friends with, they're like, there's no way that's true. It's gonna bottom out. It's not gonna be that advanced. It can't continue to grow at this rate. I don't really think that's true. I think that might be wishful thinking a little bit and hoping that this isn't gonna be as bad as it seems. And while this is anecdotal, I do know plenty of folks who have already lost their jobs to AI or are literally training their AI assistant to replace them. So that just sounds depressing on top of all the financial stuff. But the point you said, Cenk, I think is the most important, is how is anybody gonna be able to afford all of the products we're so efficiently making if nobody has jobs anymore?
Yeah, so my son is 16, so he's having to begin this college application process. And everybody we talk to is like, well, obviously don't go into coding, programming, anything related to computers because those jobs are all gone now. Okay, so what are we doing here, right? And what they mean by that is the future jobs are gone. Now, that's already a problem because now they're forced into other industries, but those industries are also losing jobs. So panic has started to set in the younger demos, but in Washington, they don't care about younger people at all. They kind of despise younger people. So they're like, oh, young people lost their jobs. That's because those whippersnappers are lazy. Right? No, you don't know how good you had it. Oh, back in the day, we used to walk in the snow for. Shut up. Shut up. It's much worse today. And these are empirical facts, guys. And I've lived through those. I'm old enough to have lived through all those different eras, right? All the way back to the Revolutionary War. No, but seriously, affording a house now is much more difficult. It's not close. This is data and numbers, right? The student debt is infinitely worse. Debt overall is way worse than it was before. So now you're loaded up with much more debt than you ever were. Everything is more expensive. Housing is so expensive you can't possibly afford it. The other day, Donald Trump says, oh, I like that the housing prices are up. Well, okay, Mr. Billionaire, I'm glad you're happy that your gaudy mansions are worth more. But by the way, even the real estate thing, the only silver lining here is that when the economy collapses, housing prices will also collapse because no one can afford those prices. So, guys, I wish I had better news for you, but you got to buckle up and brace for impact. We're about to go into some super dark times. And so in those times, we got to band together. We got to find every ally we can get and basically do a political revolution before things get worse. So I'll just say one more thing here. Look, the reason why our hair is on fire, but if you're watching corporate media, theirs isn't, it's because the only metric they care about is the stock market. And you remember a couple of months ago when Pam Bondi was testifying and she's like, oh, don't worry about the Epstein files because the Dow's at 50,000. Well, now the Dow is over 52,000. The maniacs on Wall Street keep buying and buying and buying. So the maniacs on corporate media are like, hey, everything is great. Because remember, in corporate media, almost all of them are millionaires, at least the ones on cable news. And everyone they know is millionaires. So they're like, what do you mean? Our housing prices are so high, we're rich. And we fired 10% and 20% of our staff, so I'm even richer. And so they're having the time of their lives in Washington and New York as the rest of the country implodes. So stick together here, it's gonna be rough times. And remember who did this to you. It was the politicians and their infinite corruption. They didn't prepare for what's coming at all. The only guy I know that's preparing for the AI apocalypse, as always, is who? We all know it now. There's like literally only one guy working in the Democratic Party at this point in Washington, Ro Khanna, right? So he's the only one opposing Epstein files and getting that released, opposing Israel, opposing the war. I mean, so last thing on this, Elliot, because how is this not a layup if you're a Democrat?
Oh yeah.
Yeah, and how are they not like all over TV going, what the hell? This is crazy, we're gonna lose all the jobs. Because at a bare minimum, even if you don't mean it, once the jobs collapse, then you'll seem like you were, ahead of the curve. I mean, do they have a pulse? What are they doing?
The Democrats aren't into being ahead of the curve. They kind of just like to wait and see how things go and assume it'll go great. And then when it all collapses, then they blame the Republicans. And it's a tale as old as time.
Yeah. So, and if you're waiting for the Republicans to help you, oh my God, okay? I hate to break it to you, brother, but they're not here to help you. Okay, they're here to help their corporate donors. And obviously, as we just explained, so are the Democrats. So that's why we're gonna need a political revolution, and not a physical one, but one where in 2028 we vote almost all the incumbents out. So at least you have that to look forward to.
Every time you ring the bell below, an angel gets his wings. Totally not true, but it does keep you updated on our live shows.